all for joining. I'm really glad to be here and, of course, very thankful for your patience. My name is Nassim Tayari. Thank you, Helena, for the introduction. So it's a rather long title, but I'm going to tell you what do I do. I'm the Canada leader for the IBM watsonx client engineering team. So in simple words, I'm heading up watsonx team, leading a team of AI engineers and solution architects. It's a rather cross-functional, multidisciplinary team that we are trying to help our clients to navigate the AI landscape. I have no idea what happened.
It's okay on this screen.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. I think it's because the network disconnected.
Oh, but you have it downloaded.
Yeah. Okay, do
Let's
it
try
again.
again. Beer is on me at the end of this session.
Okay.
Okay,
A
awesome.
few slides and
Yeah.
see if it's moving.
Okay. No, it's moving. Okay. So for today's session, I want to talk and share a little bit about how at IBM we are bringing generative AI into enterprises and helping our clients and enabling them with the challenges around responsible, transparent, and explainable AI workflows. So as part of this talk, I'm going to share with you a client story in, actually, like we just had a project that we just recently completed with a client and how we brought in value for this client. So I think like for all of you who are here and like who has been very patient so far, you all agree that AI needs governance. Specifically, when I say governance, it's the ability to be able to manage, to direct and monitor the AI activities within an organization. So everybody wants, or almost everybody in an organization wants to have an oversight into how AI models are created, how they are being deployed, and what is happening along the lifecycle journey. So I want to also reiterate the fact, or actually mention the fact that it doesn't necessarily replace all of the processes and activities that are associated with MLOps. It kind of complements them. So when I say AI governance, it doesn't mean that it's going to be contradicting those, but it's going to come together as part of the whole governance suite. So there are major challenges that, as we talk to our clients, that they've mentioned to us when it gets to the adoption of AI and these days generative AI. Around actually most of, and this is like the study shows us that 80% of the business leaders acknowledge that there are ethical concerns when it gets to adopting generative AI. And I want to talk about them in different concerns or categories of concerns. The very first one that I want to touch about is around explainability. So most of the conversations that we have is that they keep telling us that we want to know what are the data that has been used to build the models. And at the same time, we want to know when an output that comes out of the model, what does it say? What does it mean? So if along the journey, a model has been changed for whatever reason, what were those changes and what are the reasons behind it? Another aspect is the ethics of it. So there are also many concerns about the safety and ethical aspects of it. So this is not new. It's not only for generative AI, but all of the companies are still very concerned about their reputational, the reputational risk as well as the operational risk. Another concern or category of concern is around bias. There is this it's an everyday conversation as I talk to our clients is that they believe that why there is intrinsic bias, generative AI as part of those creation and generation is going to propagate those biases across. And then the trust. When we talk with business leaders, they are concerned that can we make sure that the decisions that are coming out of that or the data that is being generated or any results be trusted. So, and it makes sense that the regulation should be in place. And that is why we all want to be prepared. As we speak today, 31 countries have passed AI regulations. And this is a data like kind of a couple of weeks old, so don't hold on to that. Like, don't come to me as like it's now 32, but there are 31 countries have passed AI regulations. There are more that like there is coming because there are a lot of debates around that. And more than 25 states have introduced AI bills. In Canada, the government of Canada is increasingly looking into use AI. For those of you who are in the banking industry, you have heard about OSFI regulations and so many, so that it's going to be mandated around traditional ML in basically 2025, and more is yet to come. So then we all can agree that AI needs governance, the process of directing, monitoring, and managing AI activities of an organization. But there's always a but, which means that and the but it comes like that is complicated. So let me start by the manual work. Governing models, both in development and in production environment, is a relatively new field. It frequently involves a lot of manual labor and new skills that the data scientists and AI engineers, they need to have. This is not only for generative AI, it also includes the traditional AI. So where that is possible, the task should be automated as much as it's possible, right? Because then it's less stress on the data scientists and AI engineers who are building on, who are working on building models. Another challenge, as I try to categorize and classify, is the fact that we have multiple disparate tools and interfaces that they are not optimized for AI. So, which means that kind of there are not one standard process to govern AI, right? There are different tools. There are so many homemade tools that have been built. There are some like tools that they have been adopted or adjusted, but they are not necessarily optimized for an enterprise level solution. The third one is that one size doesn't fit all. So what works for a big organization like a big bank may not necessarily work for a mid-sized company or a startup that they are building models to serve and deploy it somewhere else. And then last but not least is that AI governance, and basically anything that you do as part of AI lifecycle is a team sport. I always say that it's a multi-stakeholder opportunity and exercise. So when it gets to AI governance, it's not only your data science team, it's your governance team, it's your chief data office team. There are so many teams that they all want to have a say when it gets to that. So for those of you who are nodding, I know that you have been working and trying to put models into production and trying to work with the chief risk officers and the chief data officers as your models are in production and progressing. So here at IBM, we have one IBM solution, which is a unified, integrated AI governance platform to govern generative AI and predictive ML models. This is how we are looking at it. There are different ways kind of to look into the AI governance, but this is how IBM looks at it as a life cycle governance, risk management, and compliance. What do I say when I say life cycle governance? It means that how we manage, monitor, and govern generative AI and machine learning models from any vendor, hosted anywhere, on-premise or in the cloud. When I talk about risk management, I'm talking about detecting and mitigating risks proactively, like to monitor for bias, drift, and of course, new generative AI metrics. And when I talk about compliance, I mean that how we can manage AI to meet upcoming and current safety and transparency regulations, and of course, the policies worldwide. So I want to walk you through an example of an end-to-end governed process. Note that this first of all, this is going to be end of a very busy slide, so that's why I'm going to go slow and walk you through one by one. And second of all, if there is one take-home message that is going to come out of this presentation, is that I want to know that at the end, you can always configure this life cycle for your own purpose, and that is the most important thing. So the cycle begins when someone in the organization identifies a business problem that they would like to address with AI, right? So they initiate a request by creating a new AI use case request, which is, of course, stored in an inventory. As the use case goes through the appropriate approval process that is defined by the organization, watsonx.governance automatically creates documentation and notifies stakeholders, including, let's say, the department managers, the business units, risk and compliance officers, and others. That can be very different in different organizations. This documentation is available at an individual use case level and, of course, at a dashboard level, and will provide kind of a high-level overview of the use cases across the organization. So when the use case is approved, it progresses, of course, to the next phase where the model can be built. So here in the build phase, I want to emphasize that it doesn't matter where you are building your models. So it can be on any platform, it can be on cloud, it can be on-premise. Of course, during this phase, we have certain personas that are engaged, like data engineers, data scientists, AI engineers, prompt engineers, whatever you call it, right? What happens is that watsonx.governance works with any kind of a building tool that is preferred by the technical team. They can work to develop the models or prompts, and the watsonx.governance captures the metadata. You remember that documentation that I mentioned earlier that captures the use case information? Now the information about the model is being captured here. So like training data, runtimes, and so on. So as the models are being evaluated, the data is continually synced with both the original use case and the relevant governance dashboards. So here we have the dashboards. This is just, and the dashboard view is a view for the stakeholders and decision makers, so they have an up-to-date view of the model status without any additional effort or reporting that is required for people. So they don't need to email or send a note or a Slack message or Teams message and say, what is it going on, what are you working on, or what is the evaluation results. Everything all is available on the dashboards. So all of the solution logs and facts are being captured here. So when the model meets relevant requirements for quality, like let's say fairness and whatever that are the metrics, it can be deployed. Yeah. Again, I want to highlight here is that when I say that it can be deployed, again, it can be deployed anywhere. Because watsonx governance can monitor models deployed in any environment. And once the model has been deployed, you can see that all of the information that comes out of the deployment level of the model can also be captured in the documentation. So we have one level of, like one repository, one place that could capture facts about the use case, about the models, about the prompts, and all of the information as part of the AI lifecycle. The most important thing, again, for you is that all of the information, all of the metrics, they are not necessarily like the metrics that we all know about, whether for your traditional ML models or generative AI models, but they can be custom dashboards. And the dashboard is customizable, which can be very different from one business unit to another business unit. So now, with all of that information, like that is captured at the use case level as well as the monitoring level, the watsonx.governance continuously monitors it when it's in the production and provides reports. Depending on the criticality and materiality of the model that is in production, there might be requests for the risk approval at different intervals. It can be quarterly, it can be annually, it can be semi-annually, but all of those dashboards are available to different stakeholders across the organization. So they don't need to poke anybody that what is it going on with that model that is in production at which stage, but that information is available whenever they want. So I want to walk you through an AI governance journey map and how it works in action. This is what we built, as I promised that I would tell you about for one of our clients. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that client. And but I want to know what, when we started working with this client, they told us like 2 pain points. They wanted to minimize and reduce the friction that they have in their AI approval process. Apparently they were like me, like when I was, like when me and my team were trying to put models into production, that we were so tired of like lengthy process of model approval. And then secondly, they wanted to have the full life cycle view to the AI models that they are going through the building, testing, production, monitoring, all of those. So, of course, it starts with the use case initiation. I'm going to introduce some personas, and to simplify it, let me start with model use case owner. So this person is basically an internal stakeholder. It's typically from the business side, but it can be anybody, that provides the idea of a use case and a model use case. And of course, as part of that initiation, they would fill in of like some questionnaires and they try to say like what they really want. The second phase, which we have the business unit review as part of our journey map, we have the business unit leader. This person, think about it, anybody in the organization who is responsible for the oversight and the approval of the use case. This person would get notified on the activities and is responsible to review those activities. If they don't get the job done, the task can be escalated, right? So the process should provide not only one person who is responsible for the review, but multiple people in a chain that would be notified automatically. Not that somebody is on vacation and we cannot put the model in production, or like the model needs to go like in like kind of a shadow mode because we cannot trust it. In the third phase, we have the model development. This is the piece that typically the model developers will really want to be aware of what is really happening when they are building developing the models, right? They want to assess, of course, the model. They want to understand if it's performing as it should be performing. They want to be able to test it. They want to be able to gather data about it because they always get asked about what you are doing and what is it going on. And then at the end of our journey map, again, when the model has been tested and it's ready to go into production, we have the deployment and the monitoring, right? So again, model owner, again, it can be a business person or a technical person, comes back into the picture, but actually that person has been always in the picture because as I told you, there is a dashboard that anybody in the organization have a view. But this person basically is responsible as a use case owner for the whole journey, right? And with the dashboard view, they can really see that what is really going on across different models. This might seem kind of trivial and simple, like if you have one model in production, it's quite easy to monitor and manage it. If you have 2 models, still easy. If you have 3. But think about scaling. Think about big organizations that they want to have thousands and thousands of models in production. And they don't want to spend a lot of time, and I'm telling you, a lot of time, just filling questionnaires and the documentations and approval. Okay, and then I want to tell you something. There are always some hidden teams that you don't really know. But at the end of the journey, they come into the picture and they ask you questions, right? So they don't want to start briefing them from scratch, but they want them like to have a view that, oh yeah, we can manage the governance process. This is an example that we built for one of our clients. Actually, I can tell you a little bit. We have been working with a multinational telecommunication company for the past couple of weeks. And then actually this is like an American telco company with, and I'm going to tell you the number of the models that they are making into production, around 700 models. And it's not only generative AI, so let's be very honest in here, is that maybe the proportion of generative AI versus traditional AI models that they have in a queue to put into production is around like 10 to 90%. But that is the fact that they have having this challenge. And what I want to show you is that, again, we are back on the journey map. And of course, I've introduced these personas, but I want to show you that how different teams within our organization can benefit from from a business value perspective. So actually, let me give you an example. For a long time, AI governance has been seen as a kind of a life insurance policy. We all know that we all need it, especially as, like, I mean, you're all young, but like me, I know that as I grow older, like, I really need to have that life insurance policy. But I hope that I don't use it, because that means that I'm dead. But for me, AI governance is like that. It's like kind of a must-do, but it's like more about taking a kind of a platform view around that, right? So we are looking for the efficiency, we are looking for the productivity, right? And kind of how are the different ways that we can create revenue, we can save revenue, we can enhance our AI journey. So for this specific client, I'm going to tell you at each stage how we help them and draw value for them. So at the use case initiation, how we help them with the onboarding and the like kind of a risk assessment. It kind of helped them with the accelerated model generation, around 125 million revenue generation by increasing it. That means that they didn't have to wait in time, like just for the people to become, for the teams to become available to assess the models. So when it gets to the business unit review and approval, which they have new models for review, and of course somebody needs to approve it, which is typically a business unit leader responsibility, it's a shared kind of a pain point that all of these people specifically, like typically it's more than one business leader. They have to communicate with each other, right? So it's a lot of hours that are going to be spent. So based on the benchmark that they have provided us in terms of how many hours they spend typically on approving one model, and with having in mind that they have like 700 models in a backlog to move into production, we estimated that there will be around 45% reduction to time saving, or like when it gets to use case approval. On a model development, so this is like kind of that insurance policy kind of thing, example I talked about, is all about how we can mitigate the risks that are associated with regulations. And based on the projection of the models that they're going to be having production and the impact, we kind of estimated something between 2 billion to 8 billion. I know that that's a big, but it all depends how many models they would successfully put into production. But that will be like kind of the mitigation on the risk if there will be fines. And then in the end, on the model deployment, when it gets to and the monitoring and auditing, there is a lot of effort that they need to put into place. Then again, around 45% reduction on the manual work that it could help them to save time. Once again, there is that, like, I want to remind people that there is that data and AI governance team, and those are the people that typically, I don't know why, but they really like reporting, they really like kind of like sending us like a lot of long list of things that they need to be met. And it's also time saving for them in kind of a back and forth communications. So when it gets to the AI governance, I believe that one needs a platform, all of us need to have a platform view rather than one product view. And that platform needs to be problem agnostic, and it needs to be able to be monitored at scale. So you should be able to govern models that are built and deployed anywhere. And I honestly, that's the beauty of watsonx.governance, because it doesn't matter if you have OpenAI models, or like if you're using cloud on AWS, or you have some like third-party models that you want to bring into any platform. But it lets you to monitor those. It needs to be comprehensive, which means that it needs to address like the questions of different people with different mindset and different point of view. It needs to be able to integrate it and modular, which means that it needs to work with the existing tool set. Like almost all of the clients that I've worked with, none of them want to start from scratch, and none of them want to replace whatever that they have in-house, just to build the models again to be able to monitor them. And then last but not least, it needs to be centralized, because that is what really a chief data office wants, and that is what really a chief risk officers wants, because they want to have like one centralized with different, of course, access level that could help them to make decisions. So AI governance is not really just a nice to have in today's AI environment. Implementing it is critical to avoid audits, litigation, fines, and the damage to the organization's reputation. Actually, waiting until the after fact can be costly, time-consuming, and we all need to move from a reactive compliance strategy to a proactive development of responsible AI. So as more companies are exploring AI and generative AI, a good governance strategy will need to incorporate it that would be able to look into the risks that are associated in these models. And then I want to kind of wrap it up just by reminding that this is not a race, it's a journey. We need to take care, slow down, put in guardrails and the right checks and, of course, mitigations that we have an AI system that we are happy with and is operating safely. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining this session and thank you for your patience in the very beginning. I know that there are other sessions that are running in parallel, so you might be catching up, but I will be here to answer any questions. Thank you.